Hello aspirants, welcome to the GS Core. We are with the daily current affairs through MCQs, our initiative. Okay, so let's start the session with looking at the various topics which were in news. So basically the first topic would be the headline inflation for us, the headline inflation which was in news because of the factor that the high food prices were deterring the headline inflation from falling towards a target of 4%. So basically the 4% which was the target for the headline inflation is not going to be achieved soon because of the inflation in the food prices. Okay, because of the inflation in food prices. So food prices means the food which we are eating are getting costlier nowadays. So basically this involves two things that we have to see. The first of all, what is the inflation, and secondly, what is the headline inflation. So basically inflation means, inflation denotes the rise in prices. Okay, and what is this rise in prices? Rise in prices of the commodities or the goods which we are using, the services which we are getting, which sees the rise in the prices. Rise in their prices, it means that if we are selling out 2 rupees, for example, with the base year, if the base year having the 2 rupees since in 2022, but now we are giving the same 4 rupees for that goods, it means there is a rise in the prices of that particular good. Okay, so there is a rise in the prices with regard to a particular year. Okay, that is the rise in prices of goods services within a period of time, over a period of time. So basically this we all know that it involves the demand pull inflation and the cost push inflation. Demand pull means when there is a larger demand and the supply is on a short supply. Okay, so that will lead to a good being in more demand rather than supply being more weak. Simply put, the cost push inflation, the cost push means where the few money are chasing the more number of goods. Okay, so the push which is getting through the rise in the cost is called the cost push inflation. Okay, further with regard to the cost push inflation, it is one of the core metrics of the inflation. And further with regard to the inflation, the headline inflation which we are finding it, the headline inflation basically refers to the overall inflation in the economy. Okay, overall inflation in the economy, and it represents the all goods and services. So basically the all goods and services will be included in this headline inflation, and it of course have the food, energy, okay, then housing, transport. So whatever we are using in our daily life will be under the headline inflation. Okay, it is a crucial for the policymakers, and of course it is one of the important determination for the inflation in the economy. Again, there's a one more concept, very briefly I will take it, the core inflation. But the core inflation, it excludes the components such as food and energy, which means the fuel part and the food part. जैसे पेट्रोल डीजल को एक्सक्लूड कर देंगे और फूड पार्ट को एक्सक्लूड कर देंगे. क्यों एक्सक्लूड करेंगे? बिकॉज they are more volatile in nature, so the aspects of volatility will be excluded, and then we get the core inflation. Basically the core inflation is used by the developed countries, and headline is with regard to developing countries. Why? The logic being simple, that headline inflation constitute the goods, services, food, energy, housing, transportation, and the core inflation includes those items excluding the food and the energy or the fuels. So based on that, I hope the concept is clear to you. Further, do read for yourself that who releases the inflation data. Okay, so basically let's see the question based on that headline inflation. So consider the following statement regarding the headline inflation. It includes all aspect within an economy, okay, that experiences inflation. Correct one. All aspect within an economy means food, energy, transportation, okay, communication, etc. So of course it will be the correct one option here. It does not relate to the cost of living, and it is adjusted for seasonality. Now this is incorrect because the headline inflation is very closely related with the shifts in the cost of living, and headline figure is not adjusted for seasonality because they are not for the seasonality, but for they are denoting the cost of the living. So 2 will be the incorrect one here. Third statement, it is more relevant for developing economies than developed economies. Yes, true. Why? I told you the headline is more for the developing countries, including more number of services and goods which are required on a daily basis, the cost of living. So that's why third will be also correct. So of course, how many of the given are correct? So only two. B will be the answer here. Okay. Basically, the concept of inflation must be clear in your mind. So let's see this. Topic number 2 we are going to discuss is the effect of global warming on oceans. So basically, this was in news due to the year 2023 has been the warmest year on record. Okay, 2023 has been the warmest year on record. The WMO has said this. World Meteorological Organization has said this, and in fact, the 2014 to 2023 has been the warmest decade. सबसे गर्म दशक था इस बीच में ये, ठीक है. Warmest decade, warmest year being 2023, and the Antarctic ice extent has also hit a record low, and that's why it is a significance of the global warming here. So that's why this concept of global warming on ocean has been taken. So basically, when this global warming will happen, it will have an impact on both earth ecosystems and under the ecosystem on the ocean also. Okay, so it is also intensifying the ocean acidification and the sea level rise. So basically, the global warming will have impact also on the sea level rise. The task for you, that why there is sea level rise in the oceans, you can also comment on the comment box. And further, the ocean acidification. So basically, what is ocean acidification? Do read by yourself. It will be a much booster to your preparation. So let's see the statement based on that. Okay, which of the following with reference to the effect of global warming on oceans, which of the following statement are incorrect? So basically, we have to find the incorrect one, that which of the following are not the effect of the global warming on ocean. Global warming means there is a rise in the temperature due to the activities and higher releases of CO2 in the atmosphere. Okay, the heat is being more trapped. So basically, the first statement says that oceans have not absorbed most of the heat from the rising emissions and is not a perfect black body. Now it is incorrect, because ocean is the most carbon and the warming observing. It observes most of the global warming on the oceans, because ocean have observed most of the heat. It is approx 90% of the heat which is generated in the earth is being absorbed by the oceans. So ocean has absorbed approx 90% of the heat generated by the rising emission. So basically, the rising emission will be absorbed by the ocean. So one will be incorrect. So basically, one will be here crossed mark. Now let's see 2 and 3 statement here. So statement 2 says that thermal expansion accounts for less than 10% of the sea level rise. Basically, this is also incorrect one. Why? Because of the data that between 1993 to 2018, the thermal expansion, okay, the thermal expansion. So basically, this thermal expansion had saw the rise in the seawater due to the warming, which is significant contributor, and due to that thermal expansion, there is a huge rise in the from the 1993 to 2018, there has been a huge rise in the expansion of water, and that has been accounted for nearly 42% of the sea level rise. Okay, in the sea level rise, 42% from the thermal expansion. So 2 will also be incorrect, because it is not for the less than of 10% sea rise, but 42% of the sea level rise which has been witnessed from that matter. So basically, melting temperate glaciers have also accounted for 21%, and the the glaciers in the polar regions of Greenland accounted for 15%, and Antarctica for 8%. So basically, the point being that the global warming has saw a huge impact through these indicators. Okay, third number statement, the increasing heat in the ocean leads to intensification of ocean currents. Okay, basically a concept is involved here, that increasing heat in the ocean, if there is an increase in the heat in the ocean, it will lead to the intensification of ocean current. Basically, this is also be incorrect, because as earth climate warms, the water also warms the melting ice, and this warming could make the water less cold and less likely to sink. Okay, less likely to sink. Basically, as the earth warms, the water also warms, melting the ice sea. or the sea ice, and this warming could make the water less cold and less likely to sink. And without sinking the cold water, the ocean current could not slow down or stop in some places. So that's why the increasing heat in the ocean cannot lead to the intensification of ocean current. So that's why this statement 3 is also incorrect here. Okay. Statement 4 says that dead zones in the coastal areas are caused primarily by increasing ocean temperature. Basically, you need the conceptual clarity on dead zones. That dead zones are those areas which have low level of oxygens. Okay, so where they have low levels of oxygen, so we have that dead zones, and in dead zones the marine lives, the lives struggle to survive, and ocean warming do contributes to the expansion of dead zones by exacerbating the ocean stratification. Okay, but however, dead zones are expanding driven particularly by increasing nutrient inputs. Okay, by nutrient inputs, basically they are increasing by the nutrient inputs. Okay, and also component by the increasing ocean stratification driven by climate change rather than simply by the ocean, the rise in the ocean temperature. So dead zones, the zones, okay, where there are very low level of oxygens and the marine life found it very difficult to survive. Okay, so as the earth climate warms, the sea ice will melt, the water will could make the water will be more colder in nature and less likely to sink. So without sinking of the cold water, the ocean current could slow down or stop in some places. That was the third statement. Number 4th, the dead zones, which has been, I have just told you that the dead zones are expanding driven by the increasing nutrient supply inputs, but they are also compounded by the rising temperatures, ocean stratification driven by the climate change. 4th is incorrect here. 5th, due to ocean stratification, bottom living communities, fishes are less vulnerable. Basically, if you see this by the logical reasoning, it will be incorrect, because the bottom living communities and fish are more vulnerable than highly mobile mammals and birds. Okay, so bottom living communities will have a greater impact. The fishes will have the more impact from the rising ocean temperatures, the global warmings will have more impact on those than the mammals who are mobile and the birds, etc. So ocean acts as a massive heat sink, that is the clear point of view. Okay, thermal expansion of seawater due to warming is a significant contributor. Okay, it has a 42%, and then we have read about the changes in the ocean currents, then the dead zones, and the last one being the 5th is also incorrect here. So of course 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all 5 will be incorrect here. Okay, next concept, the concept of house term. Okay, the concept of house term and poll schedule. So basically, two things were in news. The Election Commission has announced the schedule for the elections in general election in 2024, and with regard to that, there is a news also coming from the term of the House that the date of counting for assembly elections in the Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim has been advanced by 2 days to make sure that the terms of the existing House don't end before the election process is complete. So basically, the date of the counting has been advanced by 2 days to make sure that the state assembly, which is in the working condition, doesn't end before the election process is complete. So that's why question will be here with regard to that, and it's statement 1 and 2 based. We have to find the correct statement, and does the two statements statement 2 satisfy the statement 1 or not. It's a perfect reason for the 1 or not. So basically, we have to see the statement 1 here. Elections to the state assemblies and Lok Sabha are held after the term of the state assembly and Lok Sabha ends. Okay. Basically, reading by the simple text of our polity textbook, we will be able to find that the election to the state assembly and Lok Sabha are held before their term ends to ensure their continuity. So it will be incorrect one, because they are not held after the term of the state, but before that to held their continuity. So one will be here incorrect one. Under the constitution, the terms of both state assemblies and Lok Sabha last for 5 years from the first sitting of the House. Statement 2 is correct one, nothing incorrect in that. Okay, in fact, the under Article 83 clause 2, it says that the House of the People, okay, House of the People, that is the Lok Sabha, unless sooner dissolved shall continue for the 5 years. So 5 years is the general life of the house from the date of its appointed from the first meeting, and no longer, and the expiration of the said period of hire shall operate as the dissolution of the house. And basically under article 172 clause 1 is for the state assemblies. Okay, it has a similar provision for the state assemblies for the 5 years of the term of the house. Okay, so elections are typically held before the completion of the term to maintain the functionality of the democratic process without the interruption. Okay, and after the schedule is announced, the MCC comes into force. Okay, so we have to find the correct option. So C will be the correct option. Student 1 is incorrect, but 2 is the correct option here. I hope the concept is very simple here, nothing more involved in terms of that. So C is the answer. Next, the last one, the fourth one, second last one, the defamation. Defamation was in news because recently the Supreme Court has restrained a trial court. Okay, Supreme Court जो था उसने restrain किया trial court को from proceeding with the criminal defamation. From proceeding with a criminal defamation against Delhi CM Arvind Kejriwal. This makes the statement very highly interesting, and the theme defamation that has to be read in terms of the prelims examination, that what is important in terms of the defamation where it is mentioned. So IPC has defined the defamation. Defamation has been properly defined by the IPC under the section 499. Okay, and this defamation says, as whoever by the words which has been spoken by him or intended to be read or by signs. Okay, so basically it is the words, okay, reading anything in the public with regard to the third person whom it may concern, or even by the signs or the visible representation. It means when you make up a poster with regard to a person, and if it's amount to defame his personality, his reputation, it will be called as the defamation or a visible representation. Okay, and even if someone publishes something which is against the reputation of that person, will be causing, which we call as intending to harm, or knowing or having knowingly reason to believe that such statement in the public or by representation by signs or the pamphlet, etc., that such imputation will harm the reputation of such person, is said to be commit the crime of the criminal defamation. So it is a reasonable restriction on the fundamental right. So if the question comes that defamation restricts the fundamental right, it will be the correct. So basically it act as reasonable restriction, क्योंकि ये तो अधिकार है नहीं किसी को कुछ भी जाकर कह देंगे. Reasonable restriction on the fundamental right, which one? Article 19, okay, and Article 21. Right to life or the freedom of expression, speech and expression has been a right for us under fundamental rights, and this act as a reasonable restrictions. Okay, and even the Supreme Court has held that the right to reputation is basically a part of the life and personal liberty, and reputation is very important to live the life with the full meaning of the life. So that's why the right to reputation was protected under the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, which protects the life and personal liberties against the influence by the state. And this was a very famous case, and the judgment has been given by the Supreme Court in the case called as Subramaniam Swamy, who challenged the validity of the section 499 of the IPC. Okay, so why it was a news? Because the Arvind Kejriwal was charged with that, and the Supreme Court has inquired that does retweeting some tweet allegedly can be called as amount to the defamation. So this was the question which has been asked by the Supreme Court here. Based on that, a question is being framed for you. So the question says that a defamatory statement must be communicated to the third person for it to be considered defamation. Okay, yes, true, because defamation will only be there if the person who has been defamed came to know from a third person कि आपके बारे में ये कह रहा था. So that is the defamation, can also be counted as a defamation. So defamation is done to harm the reputation of an individual, thus it must be communicated. So there must be the communication of the defamation to a third person to be considered as a defamed. कहीं public में कहेंगे तभी तो वो defame होगा. So one statement is correct one. Right to reputation is protected under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Yes, true. As I told you, the right to reputation under Article 21 under the life and personal liberty. Life and personal liberty. इसके अंदर ये प्रोटेक्टेड है. So 1 and 2 both will be the correct answer here. Last topic for us, theme indigenous cow breeds. So indigenous cow breeds were in news because recently a Padma Shri has been given, and it has been given to a person known as Sosamma Ayyap, and whose effort with regard to the preservation of conservation of the indigenous cow breed known as VECHUR, Vechur cow. This was a dwarf cow which has been preserved and conserved by the Sosamma Ayyap, and for this he has been recognized by giving a Padma Shri to her. Okay, so she was a veterinary professor and she has been given the Padma Shri basically in the Kerala region. Okay, Vechur क्या है? ये एक dwarf cow है. Vechur is a dwarf cow cattle breed in India with an average height of 124 cm only, and a height, okay, it's a length, 124 cm is the length, and the height will be 87 cm. Okay, this is the height, the length of that cow. It's one of the smallest cattle breed in the world. It is known in the near, it is the Vechur basically is the place by which it is being known. It is the small place by the side of the Vembanad lake, which is very famous lake, and it is the good example of cow breeding. So based on that, let's see the last question we have. It is a rare breed of cattle which is the smallest cattle in the breed in the world. Its milk is known to be easy to digest. Okay, keep in mind the keywords that has been used. Have medicinal properties, because UPSC can ask such significant aspect of this cow as an statement 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. They have a high disease tolerance, heat tolerance, and adaptability. It is found in a small place by the side of a Vembanad lake near Vaikam in Kottayam district of South Kerala. The breeding tract includes Alapua, Kottayam, Paraminta, and Kasaragod district of Kerala. So it is the Vechur cow which has been in news. It is one of the dwarf cow. Okay, and Sosamma has been given the Padma Shri with regard to that. I hope the concept is clear to you. So that's the end of the session. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much.